But other than that, the floor is yours.
Okay, great.
Fantastic. So awesome.
So we are live. There's 25 participants here to see Merge and really get a little bit deeper hold on the power behind the AR that Merge allows access to the students and the engagement. Please let us know in the chat if you guys are already using Merge in your classrooms. We want to know that. We want to know what you guys see as far as the context of how your students are using it, or if you've seen the profound learning experiences that are available to the students. We want to hear all about it. So I'm Jennifer Roeder. I'm with Prologic ITS. I'm a former special education teacher and a product specialist. And actually, as you can see behind me, I have the best job ever because I get to not only participate with teachers in the learning instruction that you guys are doing, but I also get to test products and work out in the field with them with students and teachers. So that's a little background on me. And then I want you guys to all meet Nick. He's going to be in charge of the presentation and kind of giving us the deep dive of lesson plans and how Merge can work in your classroom with all of your students, all of the learners. And so excited to have you guys all here.
Yep.
Nick?
Thank you so much. So as she mentioned, I'm actually Nick from Merge. I've been in STEM tech for the last 10 years. I work for many different companies, Little Bits, MakerBot. Basically, if you can name a STEM company, I either worked there or worked with them. To correct Jen, she has the second best job in the world. I actually have the best job in the world. I get to travel the world and show people the Merge Cube. So today we're going to cover a couple things. Just to kind of give you an overview, we're going to go into how Merge can integrate with 3D printing, design, how it actually enables people in very low-income areas. I myself have lived in Georgia. I lived there for almost 10 years. I lived in Southeast Georgia in a town called Waycross. And I've seen how education can transform the lives of literally anybody. And living all throughout different parts of the area, how STEM education really is this gateway to encompass and nurture. So what we're going to cover today, and Jen's obviously, Jen and I have worked together for I think almost like 6 months now. He is really a resource for what Merge is going to do. So we're going to handle how 3D printing can come into it, how it's developing in the new world, the skills it's going into, and most of all, you're going to learn something very surprising about how all of us learn, the majority of us, and how it's almost like it's going to encompass so much more into actually getting us over the hurdles of that learning deficit. I know as the person that grew up with ADHD and dyslexia, had they caught it earlier, I probably could have become like the president by now, but unfortunately the resources weren't there back then. So if everyone has their Merge Cubes, we're going to dive into it, and I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll get going from there. So let me know if you can see it. I guess, Jen, you'll be kind of my hawk on this one. So can everyone see my presentation? Yes, hopefully.
Yes, we've got your presentation.
Fantastic. All right. So obviously, this is going to be AR and VR for active learning. And when we talk about active learning, we're talking about something that's really going to be about engagement. And more so when you have engaging pieces of education coming on with students, it builds into their memory blocks so much more that they're going to understand it, they're going to comprehend it, and they're going to be able to reference back to it at a later time. Obviously, this entire year has been very difficult for everybody, especially students. I feel really, really terrible for what's going on, but we do have to literally find different solutions in order to reach these students. So today, this is by partnership with myself, Jen Roeder, and Romain Brown. So let's talk about the difference between what is augmented reality. So the Merge Cube itself has really transformed the world of education. The way we got in education is there was a kind of fiasco at Walmart. They were all $1. Teachers bought them up like crazy, and it really changed how we got into the classroom to the point that it made us an education company. But we always focused on AR. AR was kind of our bread and butter. So it means augmented reality. The most common use of augmented reality so far in the world that everyone's gotten their shot with is actually Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go allowed many of the users that have never had the chance to use the technology to actually interact with it in their current environment. So this is somebody that's actually posting next to a statue, they're taking selfies, so on and so forth. They can actually physically walk all the way around the statue. They can look up, look down, look into features as if you're there. Augmented reality is when we take a computer-generated image and we throw it into the real world. It gets confused a lot with VR. We're going to talk about VR next. So virtual reality is more so when you have to essentially immerse your entire self into a viewer, and that viewer, everything you're seeing, it's trying to tricking the mind into believing what you're seeing is actually the environment, right? They see that there's going to be a great value in virtual reality, but the majority of the way that the world is tending to learn now is through augmented reality, because you get the one difference that you usually don't get with anything else. You get touch. You're able to actually physically interact with it, and that feeling of touch is actually able to spur on different senses. So then if you touch something, say for example, like maybe you're outside, your body and your mind's gonna start tricking, like you're gonna be able to smell the air. You might even be able to feel the sun a little bit on your forehead. And we see this with so many different students that may never get a chance to visit some of the places in the world that, some of the others may get to, but again, it shouldn't stop them from being able to see it and experience it. So as we move on, let's talk about what this learning practice I was talking about earlier was. The practice is this, is that 65% of all the students today in classrooms are going to be working in jobs that do not yet exist, right? However, probably that same 65% of students, they're what we call visual or spatial learners. If you guys want in the chat, if you guys want to add in, let us know, are you a visual learner? Because if you are, you're probably in the majority. The majority of the people that are in the world are spatial learners, and that really means that they kind of see by doing and interacting, as opposed to like auditory and things like that. But for the longest period of time, our education system has really taught things through auditory, and it's no one's fault necessarily. It comes down to the technology and the resources we had. Obviously books are a great resource, and we have to use our imagination to bring things to life. But again, there's so many different ways to learn, and I want to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity and the avenue to get there. And I think that's what Merge's great mission is to engage your students at a higher level, that the things they're learning are going to prevent them from falling down into the pitfalls we have and access a future that's greater than we can even imagine. And that's my great hope, right? So as we spoke about it, those visual and spatial learners, augmented reality and virtual reality, it provides a real sense of actually immersing themselves into the information that they have at hand. So when we actually talk about, going to a place, or we talk about a time in history, they can physically go back and interact with these times in history. Today, for anyone that hasn't been, lucky enough to go see it, we're gonna go to the Eiffel Tower, but we're also gonna go and look at a live dinosaur that I'm gonna place into the real world that we can physically walk around that's able to move. So that'll come up shortly. But those are the kinds of experiences you're able to actually bring to life. As opposed to looking at a diagram in a book that's just a standard 2D picture, you can actually bring this to life and have your students interact with it. That interaction jumps that interest, it jumps that engagement. And most of all, it's going to curate this entire piece that their knowledge is going to be functional to what they're learning, right? So they can take that knowledge and apply it somewhere else. So again, we want to prevent them from falling into the pitfalls that we fell into. When I first came to the US almost 30 years ago, social media was not a thing. The greatest piece of, I think, media we had at the time was probably newspapers and television news. And now the majority of us probably get a lot of the information that's breaking news, probably from a lot of the social media channels we see, because again, we spend more time there than we do anything else. And that's helping so many different communities, different companies actually engage with their users and their customers because of social media. It's allowing us to have a greater voice, no matter what's happening at any given time. And those jobs did not exist back then. So how do we prepare the next generation of people for roles? We can only do so by teaching them proper traits and characteristics and skills. And that's where it's going to come in right now. Out of the top 150 tech companies in the United States, over 91% of them use augmented reality in their day-to-day business. So when you think about just even you as a consumer, if you go and buy a couch on Amazon, you can physically use augmented reality to see what the couch is going to look like in your home, right? If you're going to, even going to do like a driving test as a student, you're going to use augmented reality. If you're in the military, you have to learn through augmented reality. If you want to become a franchisee of many of these different restaurants, you will actually learn through augmented reality. I can tell you right now that Chipotle started utilizing augmented reality more and more because it's actually cutting down on costs, and it's allowing them so many more opportunities to learn. And probably the most vital right now is that augmented reality is helping us in the medical field, because as opposed to traditional learning with corpses and cadavers, so on and so forth, utilizing the Merge Cube, doctors can actually reenact a surgery, right? And actually go through the entire thing, that the results of learning are on par or better than they would with an actual physical cadaver. So as we transition, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So right now, as I've said, learning by experiencing is what we really want to put through that engagement piece. So these are just some snippets. I'm not going to read them off to you. I hate when people read to me. But we're seeing it in all these major universities. I know Georgia Tech is obviously utilizing it as well as University of Georgia, as well as like schools in Statesboro. But we're seeing it more and more in everyday life, and it's going to become more prominent. So you as an educator, I'm sure this is a skill set you want to teach your students. So let's talk about how the easiest pathway to allow them to actually learn this is through the Merge Cube. So this is our Merge Cube. It's a little squishy. I think for those of you that have a paper cube, it works just as well. But it has all this crazy writing on here. The way it works is like this. The writing itself is almost like a QR code. So when you hold it in front of a phone that has the ability to essentially kind of read it back, it's essentially reading code. That code is now going to show up on your actual device. So you're going to be able to actually see what's there. In this bottom right photo, what we have is that we have a skull, a skeleton skull, right? They're actually able, as they're moving the cube, they're rotating their hand, it's actually moving the skull as well. And through that entire experience, they're actually able to utilize it. Somebody in the chat asked earlier, you know, with 3D printing and design and things like that, one of my favorite things coming from the 3D printing world is that I always wanted to learn how to design and bring great things to life. I am very impatient, however, so if I wanted to design something incredibly fascinating, it can take up to 200 hours to print that, depending on the level of detail that's there. That will obviously have a little bit of cost to it, a little bit of time, and halfway through, if that print messes up or the machine has an error, I have to restart the entire print. What's great about this is if anyone's using this for 3D printing or design, the only downside to a 3D printer, honestly, is that within a 45-minute class period, you can't print 30 different things for 30 different students. No print in the world is that fast or that capable. But if they have a merged cube, anything the student can design, they can upload into our app and they can bring to real life. The benefit that's going to allow your student is they can now interact with something. As they interact with it, again, building in that memory and that knowledge base, they're going to have an experience. And again, it's something they can take and they can show and they can design and they can improve on without having to send back and wait. So the pathway to actually have that experience and that completion of knowledge, because like any of us that have ever worked really hard to learn something, the moment it finally clicks, it is the sweetest feeling in the world because you've truly accomplished something. And this is going to allow them to feel those accomplishments a lot more and a lot more frequently. So again, it's going to allow those pieces to actually come into it. Anything you can want to learn, the fascination of STEM and STEAM, it's going to be placed here. So I'm actually going to go into our app shortly and show you, but again, if you have your Merge Cube, keep it handy. We're going to need it shortly to actually go through this piece. So let's talk about the platform really quick. So the platform is actually all of our like where we house all of our content, right? So what's great is we have the largest Facebook educator group for a STEM company. We have active users. We have, I think, 50,000 plus. But there's so many different things that those educators are doing just because they love the Merge Cube, and it allows them access to build and grow the content that's there. But we utilize with our platform single sign-on integration. So if you're at a school that's using Clever, Microsoft, Google, so on and so forth, you can actually, same username, same login for your kids, but we're going to go into some of these pieces, but we're going to focus on 2 apps today. So I know we sent out in the communication, if you can download the Merge Explorer app or the Object Viewer app, that's what we're going to use with your cube. And we're also going to go over the teacher resources. Again, learning a new technology is easy, and we want to make sure that we're not holding your hand through it, but we're basically going on the journey together. So you're not alone, and you're never going to feel like you're in the weeds because we'll be right there with you. So let's talk about the demonstration. So give me 1 second here. And so I just have to share my screen. Okay. And so I'll share it here.
We've got it.
You got my screen? Do you have my iPhone screen?
Not yet. It's switching over right now.
Okay. All right. So as we go through that, I'm just gonna stop sharing for 1 second. I just want to make sure this pops up. I apologize that for some reason the cable's not connecting.
One thing that I think is kind of profound is with the merge cube, the ability, and I'm sure that we all have some background history that not everyone can travel. It's not typical for most people to even leave the state. Often you'll find people that have never left their state. So the ability for travel and understanding, it's so rich and such a powerful thing to share with your students. I just, I know that it exists and students have access to visualizing and experiencing other places. So that's another thing that I love about Merge.
So what I would like you guys to do now is that if you have the Merge Cube and the Merge Explorer app, if you wouldn't mind opening it, we're gonna go through a lesson plan today. So I'll give you guys a minute. It's called the Merge Explorer app. Drop it into the chat. Let me know. I'll give you guys like another minute. And then you're gonna need your Merge Cube. So Merge Cube and a device. Those two wonderful things. All right, so all you're gonna do is once you open your Explorer app, we're gonna go on to, and you're gonna see this, we're gonna look into my favorite. It's called the Great White Shark. So if you go under Life Sciences, the Great White Shark, it should be there for you. And so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna scroll down to the third activity after we click it, and we're gonna see the Great White Shark.
So on your app, should be the very bottom, life cycles and traits, Great White Shark. So I can, give me 1 second and I can share mine, Nick.
Fantastic.
Always working through a little bit of technical difficulties.
It's the name of the game, unfortunately. Yeah, there seems to be an issue on my side where I cannot actually showcase the app. It's very troubling. So let's go through like the first difficulty of it. So obviously,
okay.
While you're doing that, so let's actually discuss the Great White Shark. So for those of you that don't understand, the great anatomy of the Great White Shark, the Great White Shark is one of the most feared species of sharks in the world. However, it's vastly misunderstood. The Great White Shark is very territorial, very protected. But what we're seeing today is we're actually going to see the insides of the shark. So you'll actually be able to see 3 different layers. There's going to be a skin layer, a skeletal layer, and an outer layer. And on that outer layer, you're actually going to be able to see the scars. All you have to do to see the different layers on the screen of your device is just tap the shark. If you tap it once, it'll show you the next layer. If you tap it again, it'll show you the layer afterwards. And we're going to discuss some of the actual questions for that afterwards.
I don't know if that'll work at all. I'm thinking that it is not going to in that capacity. Let me try and share my screen with that.
Okay. And so we'll continue on from there. So I do apologize for this random tech mishap. Is anyone able to? Mr. Yo, very nice. You have the solar system in your hand. There's a lot of different apps as well that you can actually go into and actually see. And to kind of save some time, why don't we do this? I I will show you Merge YouTube and Merge VR. Let me log on to my YouTube channel and I'll find it really quick. So one of the big things that we actually do here at Merge is that we actually feel that our way of training should be as simple as possible. And the reason being is that we have so many different variations of what we work on. So for example, we want to make sure that we have everybody here that's actually able to utilize the cube, train it, and
swim with the great
on it. So I'm going to show you the actual shark video here. It's actually featuring the daughter of one of our founders because, again, we're a very small company, but she's fantastic at actually showing Merge.
Swim with the great white shark and take a look inside the body of a shark in this experience for Merge Explorer. In this 360-degree video, brought to you by Curiscope, your students can have an up-close and personal encounter with a great white shark. Using X-ray vision, they can even see his insides. Take a look at these teeth from both a great white shark and a megalodon. Notice how much bigger its teeth were? How much bigger do you think a megalodon was than today's great white shark? Tap on the shark to view different parts of his anatomy, all while he's swimming in front of you. You can view the bone and skeletal structure of the great white shark, as well as look at his internal organs.
So that's one of the pieces that we actually have for Merge that allows us to actually bring these things to life. The great white shark lesson plan is what we've actually focused on for about the last 6 months because unfortunately it is becoming more prevalent that our oceans are becoming polluted, but we want to do something about it. So we're obviously teaching as many students as we can about these creatures because they're becoming more and more endangered. So we want to make sure that the lesson plans that actually curate to it are actually able to be functional, they're guided, but most of all, it doesn't have to be followed step by step. You can add in different pieces to it and align those pieces as well. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to play around with what your actual pieces that you have there. And then we'll jump into the other one. So if you have the Merge Explorer app, that's fantastic. The Object Viewer app, that's the one we'll go into going next. So, yeah. And then we're going to discuss actually like the next series of learning that we're seeing that schools are actually utilizing with remote learning and the capabilities of keeping the students engaged when they're far away and how to actually keep them on board and on track with allowing them to actually build into it. We're also going to go into Girls That Code and how they're utilizing the Merge Cube to actually bring things to life, new solutions to everyday problems. So yeah, fantastic. All right, so let's talk about how this is actually used and where this is used as well. We have a lot of different philosophies on how students should learn. Unfortunately, when we actually look at this year, it really brought some challenges that a lot of us may have not been prepared for. Growing up and the kind of living in this remote working world, it's been very common for me to actually do. However, we want to make sure that those students are given those same chances. So with remote learning, how Merge is actually pivoted, we were focused on this a lot longer because we do have focused a lot on the homeschool market. So one of our biggest focuses was ensuring that the engagement of a student is going to allow them to actually take those skills and start coding on their own and things like that. So what we started doing is something called the Merge building blocks. So the Merge building blocks work like this. You start off actually functioning with the cube and then going through the apps, completing the content. But we want you to start creating your own content. 97% of an entire student's day is spent actually consuming content. 97%. 3% is creating. And the reason for that, and that's from a 2015 Google study, and obviously I'm sure that number may have possibly gone up. We want to make sure that those students have the ability to utilize their creativity and bring things to real life. So what we're trying to focus on here is actually that 21st century learning. And how it's going to work is that the majority of the jobs are already showcasing that they will need augmented reality. That augmented reality is now going to become what's next. So focused on it is this, is that, I apologize, I'm speaking kind of fast. Focus on it is that when we saw the remote learning platform, what we wanted to do is give you an option that your students can log into the actual app. You can track what they're doing. You can grade what they're doing. They can turn things in as well. And that's going to be able to use whether it's on iOS and Android, using Merge or using the Chromebook, or if you're using a Merge Promethean panel and actually sending it out to your students. And we do have a partnership with Promethean that we're very proud of because it allows so many different users and so many different educators to connect with their students at a great visionary standpoint. But we want to continue utilizing the same thing. And so like I mentioned, we went into different capabilities. And now when you go into these different capabilities with different systems, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, how does this work with coding? So coding is one of the things we focus on, and obviously girls with coding, I've worked with them in the past. There's a different space that we want to make sure that the student is going to be, girls that code. And girls that code, obviously, software is going to be that next piece. So programming, so on and so forth. Do you know Python? Do you know, C#, so on and so forth, HTML? We are allowing our entire backend system to be open source. So anything you want to do in the Merge apps and software and platform, you're actually able to code, unify it, and actually design it to your own specifications and your own wanting. So that's an entire platform that your students can actually start using. The only thing that we don't currently support is Blockly, but I'm sure that'll come within the next, hopefully, time before they go back to school. But we want to make sure that we're going to give them an avenue to actually utilize as much as they can. So they can use Merge with coding, Merge with VR, they can use it with designing 3D models, anything of that standpoint. And the best part about it is because they're able to hold it, feel it, and engage with it, they're going to remember it so much more. So from there, let's talk about what's next. So let's talk about our actual miniverse. So our miniverse is one of our things that we're the proudest of. As opposed to many different STEM companies, Merge, we obviously like money just like everybody else, but we also want to make sure that we give you as many different options to actually engage with your students and allow them to actually express themselves and express different pieces. So a lot of our apps are actually free, probably the majority of them. And so today we're going to talk about two things that we usually don't talk about, but I feel like we should. The first one is social and emotional learning. So as we move on to a greater century of understanding for Merge's 21st century learning, you're going to encounter students that may have gone through traumatic things that, unfortunately, previously we didn't have names for, didn't know how to treat, didn't know how to care for. And we want to make sure that those students aren't left behind, but they're given the same standpoints of learning. So one of the options that we have is something called Moment. So Kevin Kaja is actually the inventor of this app. He's a great friend of Merge. But this app is 100% free. And how it works is you just need your Merge Cube and a device that's going to work with it. So it works like this, is that each side of the cube is actually going to have a different emotion, expression, feeling, or a situation. And the way it works out is that we've actually seen, and we have a white paper on it for those that would like to read it, it allows a student that may normally not be able to actually speak and express their emotions or the situations they're going through, utilizing the Merge Cube. It kind of gives them a greater sense of security that they're actually able to converse with you and explain those emotions and walk through it. So if they're feeling really angry all the time or they're feeling depressed, it's going to give them a new avenue for you and that student to connect and discuss. And imagine if you're a guidance counselor that's working with troubled students that unfortunately, may not always have an avenue or a voice to speak out. This will give them an avenue or a voice. We want to ensure that we allow people of any background, of any learning capability to be able to express themselves, and this is one of the best ways. And again, this app is free. It's part of our miniverse. It allows you to actually interact with it, and the Merge Cube as well is free, the paper cubes, so you can actually print as many as you want. If you have 300 students, print 300. If they break, print another sheet of paper. We're also going to talk about the universe. So obviously, we had a user previously actually hold the entire solar system in his hands. What if you wanted to explore the Earth at a greater detail? So we've actually worked with a studio that's actually funded by NASA. It's called Hologlobe. And how Hologlobe works is like this, is that anything on the entire Earth, you can interact, you can see, and it's updated live. So you'll see storms that are coming. You'll see things that are moving. You'll see as the waves continue to start coming around. It is 100% accurate to what is going on, give or take maybe a couple minutes or maybe an hour at the most. But as you see this actually spinning out, you're actually going to be able to rotate your cube and interact with it. And it's backed by NASA, obviously, so these guys that are actually doing it have great vitality with it. So
can I just throw in one question? I want to know from our participants, are your minds blown? Because this is pretty amazing. And again, so happy. Yeah, I love it. the hairs are a little, it's
Yeah.
great. I love that you guys are really experiencing and exploring with the merge. And if you feel like this, with all of our background and knowledge, imagine how our students are going to feel. So
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
excited. Thanks, Nick. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So, I mean, that's the thing is we want to make sure, like, I am happy that you guys are exploring through the Merge Explorer app. No matter what I say, you experiencing it is going to be 10 times better than anything I can show you or tell you, just because that experience obviously is really what we're pushing for. We also have things like Dig. So for people that, you know, love the idea of Minecraft, but feel like maybe it's a little too much for some of the students, this allows your students to actually basically build everything on their Merge Cube and bring it to life. Right? So they can build towns, they can build entire things. Merge also, it's not only in English, we have it in 11 different languages. So if it's a French, Spanish, German, so on and so forth, Russian, Hindi, it's all there, Japanese. So it's gonna allow you to actually do it. But this is one of the craziest apps I've ever seen. It's a little bit addicting, but you create entire 3D worlds. And we wanna make sure that those users actually, you know, come back to it. There are recommended ages for it, but again, if your student's able to, you know, utilize a device and a cube, which most students are, they can start as young as age 5, but obviously want to watch how much time they're exploring with it. There is one other thing I want to share with people. So you don't actually need the Merge Cube for this, but you can actually use your regular devices. You don't always need a headset. I traveled previously to COVID every week of my life for 10 years. So I was on a plane constantly. And I do miss the airport, I miss traveling, but it gave me an opportunity to see worlds apart from where I grew up. I grew up in a very impoverished area, but in the last 36 months alone, I have been on every continent except for Antarctica. I've been to 61 countries because my job has allowed me to go to different places and learn from people. But unfortunately, a lot of people aren't that fortunate. It has come at a cost, you know, but again, we're gonna give you the opportunity to do this. So with Merge, any VR piece can be used with our headset or your devices. But we also have a lot of educational VR experiences for your students. I know from when I work with a lot of schools in South Georgia, school trips to colleges are very, very rare for a lot of students because unfortunately it requires mom and dad taking time off work, having to pack the car, hotel, so on and so forth. It can be very pricey to go see these schools. So at the very least, a lot of universities and a lot of experiences are actually becoming VR based. So they can actually walk through an entire museum. They can see different pieces. They can go visit the school they want. They can go dive in the Great Barrier Reef. Everything's going to be allotted to them. But the best part is for those of us that have visited a place that we really look forward to that ended up disappointing us, maybe you'll save a little bit of money and see something that maybe it's not there. But it's also going to give you the aspect of allowing yourself to be immersed into something that normally you would not get that experience. But with these, a lot of these come with lesson plans, activities, so on and so forth. That's going to come from there. I'm going to stop right now if anybody has any questions. I do have a question here. It says, do you recommend utilizing CoSpaces with K5? I would actually. And the reason being is CoSpaces has such a ease of use for allowing them to create augmented reality content that you can actually branch through and build anything you would like. We do have a informal partnership with CoSpaces, but I would allow any educator to obviously sign up for their free trial and try it out on their own. It sometimes may not be fully needed because you can also use Tinkercad or any design app to actually 3D design anything you would like, and you can code it as well. Any other questions here in chat? So so obviously the Moment app, for anybody that would like to see the white paper, we'd be happy to share that out. Kevin Kaja is very active on Twitter and is always advocating for the use of the app because his wife is a psychologist and works with students like this every day. There is one more thing I'm going to share about Merge as well. So as we actually are a small company, we're developing a lot more new content. A lot of our content obviously is free. Some of it's subscription based, some of it's just standard free. But obviously for those paying the subscription, there's a lot more different activities. And I'll show you guys some of the actual controls that come along with it as well. So let's pivot to that right now. Does anyone have any questions? So I'll leave chat regularly for 30 seconds.
Do you mind sharing the page that you're on with all of the different apps? Can you thread that?
I will drop it in here. It's called miniverse.io. So a lot of the ones in the Explorer app are able to be used with VR, but you don't need to. All VR definitely does is, say you didn't want to hold the phone, you wanted to strap it into a headset, you can do that as well. Our Merge headset is right here. What's incredible about this headset is it's antimicrobial, which basically means it's insanely hard to get anything on. You can't put stickers on it, you can't write on it, sweat doesn't go on it, makeup doesn't go on it. It's very functional. And the best part about it is if you wear glasses, which unfortunately I do now, most headsets for VR, you cannot actually wear them with your glasses on. So for those of us that are visually impaired, it won't allow us to enjoy the VR experience all the way. With the Merge headset, it's fully functional. So you're actually able to adjust it any way you want. My little brother has like a massive, the giant pumpkin head. And this is one of the only VR headsets he can wear without having his like head crammed in. But the other thing is you can actually put your phone in there. For the students that may be a little rough with stuff, you can take it, you can throw it. It's not going to damage the phone, and the phone actually sticks into it. For those of you that don't believe this, look at our YouTube. We dropped a headset off an 8-story balcony, phone inside, phone is fine, headset's fine. But yeah, to answer your question, long story short, it does need VR mode. If you want to use it, by all means, check it out. And Brian, thank you. I'm now one of the clubs, so if you have any hints on how to use glasses properly, I'll appreciate it. There is one other piece I do want to talk about. So with Merge, with our apps and things like that, there are a lot of unofficial apps that we don't properly have on Miniverse, but they are in the App Store. So you as an educator, you can go download those, try those out. But again, if it's not officially with Merge, I can't advocate for or against it. But you do have a lot of different avenues you can protect through. So let us move on to the next piece of our AR piece. So again, that's really everything. Unfortunately, I do want to go over the Object Viewer app, and the Object Viewer app is probably my favorite app in the entire world. The downside to it is I don't know if it'll allow me to show my screen here in a different.
I'm not quite sure if it's the platform that we're on that I wasn't able to access it from my end, but give it another try maybe.
Okay. Yeah, because I want to make sure that we can show this to you, because without this,
So it looks like we have 45 participants on. Super exciting, but if you guys can share with us just with a yes or no, are you currently using AR and VR in your classroom? That's something that we would love. Oh, wow, there's a lot of yeses and there's a lot of no's. Yeah. So we've got work to do, and we've got work to continue with the yeses. The Merge platform, as you guys can really see, is I've worked with a lot of AR in the past, education focused, and it was quite a bear to work with, just contingent on technical grasping on your internet so you can control it. The Merge app does not have those firewall things that you have to get around in a classroom, and it's a bit more self-sufficient. However, when you come to the education stance and you want to show things from a group effort, that's where you can connect with your Promethean panel and show it to the entire classroom, or you can project from your computer, connect it to computer and project to any presentation devices that you have in the classroom. So it can be used in both manners, independent learning and also whole group.
So to answer your question, we just had come in. So all of the actual Merge VR pieces can be used with, as long as you have the Merge app, you can use it with any headset that allows you to download the app. We're pretty agnostic in that standpoint. Most VR experiences are free, so even if you just have your own phone and a Merge headset, you can even use Google Expeditions because that is free. We want to be as open as possible to using it. There is one question that I don't think anyone asked yet. Is all of the Merge content curriculum aligned? We actually are 100% curriculum aligned to every single state standard in the US. And so we have actually updated our state standards. We keep it under current watch. And so we're always watching for new things. I know Georgia's actually updating, I think, some of the science standards, and we'll be on the lookout for that once those standards actually come into play, and it'll be updated again. 100% curriculum aligns. And we also allow our educators, if you're seeing something that does change, we can actually do it. If you actually signed up for a Merge account, you actually have access to these. So under our Merge login, what you're going to do is you're just going to go to the Resources tab, and if you go to the Standards and Alignments, it'll actually show you where all of them are. They're actually housed in Simple Dropbox because, again, we update them pretty frequently. And so find your state. It's in alphabetical order, thankfully. And yeah, it'll all be there. So for example, let's go to Georgia. So we updated it in November. We haven't seen the new standards yet, but again, it is up to date as possible. So let's look at it. So it's going to go over the elements, the standards, how it works out for each of the lesson plans that are actually applicable, where they're housed, what they cover. And so everything is there for you. If you'd like, I can send this out. I'll quickly download it for us, and we can go from there.
It looks like Angela Harris had a question as far as, do the Merge VR work with other VR headsets?
Yeah.
That's really depending on what other headsets you're using, but Merge blends well. So you would just have to send a little bit more information on the headsets that you're currently. Oh, you'll just drop your. Yeah, it's just an app that within the phone. Mm-hmm. If it's a headset that's not self-contained.
Yep. So what's next is, so finally the last thing is, if you haven't had the chance to sign up for the Merge app or print out the Merge Cube, they're both free. We give you 30-day access. You have access to everything across the entire platform. And the best part about it is, if you need help with anything, we actually have a lot of great local partners. So I unfortunately don't get to travel to as many places as I want anymore, but we do have Jennifer and Romain from Prologic, who they actually are our exclusive vendors here in the state of Georgia. They handle everything for Merge for us. And they, most of all, I've actually worked with Romain for the last 5 years. He's probably one of the best resources for any school you can wish for. So he has actually allowed me to even come to this. He's one of the people that, reached out to. So there's Romain Brown. This is actually his contact information if you would like to reach out to him. But truly, like one of my favorite people when it comes to actually bringing new technology to school. The best part about what I work with at Prologic, though, is that we understand that there's a lot of schools out there that are, I'll put it this way, are financially challenged, right? Funding is such an issue for every single school. We want to make sure that we feel your pain, and we're going to understand that, so much more, because for us, we understand it too, because we want to, get our stuff in there, but there's a lot of things. The 3 things that we already kind of focus on is student data privacy. We hit everything you can imagine, but a lot of the resources you have with Merge are going to be free. You may not use Merge every day, but if you're a school that's limited on funding, limited on devices, there's still something you can do with Merge. Even if it's you as a teacher using your device and sharing it on like a flat panel in your classroom, a Promethean panel, your students are still going to get all the pieces that are drawn out to it. I would like to just showcase one more thing with it. So again, if you signed up for it, when you go into our lesson plan features, all of these lesson plans are here. They're all built into the app. When you go onto our main Merge EDU website, we gave out 50 free lesson plans for anyone that wanted to try out Merge, because we understand where it's coming from. We have PD, things like that. But we also found ways that you can get funding for Merge. Our easiest set is 50 users, no questions asked. They all get their username and login. It's $9.95 for the year. And again, there's a lot of funding out there for it. But we have all these different ones that you can actually go into. You can work with CoSpaces, Tinkercad, Sketchfab. So there's all these different pieces that are free. And I would say take advantage of it as much as you can. If you haven't had the chance to bring Merge into your classroom right now, all you would need to do is just download the app, sign up at this website I sent in chat. Make sure you go trymerge.com/NN. You will get 30 days. And if you need a little bit more time, please reach out to Romain or Jennifer and say, hey, I was a part of the learning symposium, and I would like a little bit more time just to try this out. And we will work our best to make sure that we can get you as much time as you need in order to figure out, if this is going to be a great fit for your classroom. If it's not, that's not a big deal. At least you got to try something cool, hopefully.
Yeah, and one other kind of like let's jump in here. I know as teachers that your mind's always racing with how can I use it? What can I do? Where do you see this fitting in? I'm just curious, where do you guys see Merge fitting into your classrooms? How would you love to be able to use it? What content would you like to specifically touch with your students and have them experience? So I always like to get audience participation, because you guys are in the front lines learning, and this is how we learn from what you guys are currently experiencing.
Yeah.
Have heard that earlier in the conversation, when we first started out, we had a gentleman teacher that is working on creating excitement in his classroom, and looking to work on coding some actual VR and AR places, and building, Brandon Murray's building his offering to his classes. So want to hear what you guys are also working on.
So to answer some of the questions we have here, Brian asked, atomic models and internal computer hardware. So internal computer hardware, we actually do have an entire thing that actually starts from not just the actual device itself. It actually starts from the moment that the electricity travels through the outlet. It goes into the device, how everything works, and we actually go through computing and so on. So that's actually coming. That's one of the free lesson plans. The one for atomic models, it has not been released yet, and the reason is we're waiting on that rubber stamp that says we hit all 50 states. Carrie Betts, animals, plants, and weather. So if you actually sign up for the Merge Explorer app, a lot of our lesson plans are actually skimmed down to prepare those students in kindergarten or younger grades for all of those topics. So we have things that you can go through a frog, you can actually design your own animals, physical. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just add, I feel teachers' pain too. So Carrie, guess what? No one's going to be allergic to it.
Oh, that's true. Very true. Also, it allows them to design on their own. For physical science, so we have an entire series actually that's upcoming that's going to be released probably within the next 60 days on everything in physical science. For Merge, when we started out, we started from the ground up. So we started the younger grades and we continue moving up. So we actually have a lot of stuff for college level as well. And so if you actually look through our platform, please sign up at trymerge.com/NN and look through all those different pieces. You'll find things for physical science. You'll find things for different pieces of anatomy. There's something called Mr. Body that goes through it as well. One of the other ones that we have is alternative energy, which I don't know if anyone mentioned, but we do have things for circuits and anatomy. We even have something that shows how a potato can actually power something. That's one of our first actual experiences within the app. Remote learning.
So yeah, Denise Wright wrote in, this is what I'm really interested in. Denise, it says you had students sharing their devices on remote sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Using our app, was that because of COVID? Is that how you guys continued education despite the distance learning?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
That's really the right tool for the right time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, good. I think, do we have any other questions? Anything at all? I mean, one of my biggest things is we always have challenges bringing new technology in the classroom. Are any of you facing some of those challenges in maybe a unique situation? I'd be happy to hear those out. Or is there something about Merge that maybe you didn't understand? Maybe I spoke a little bit too fast. Unfortunately, I have that habit. AR projects for coding and virtual tours for different places. So yes, actually, the Object Viewer app is anything you can actually design or you can scan or you can take from Thingiverse or any of those other places, you can load into the real world and you can actually do like a voiceover and actually, as you're walking through the entire thing, talk about the pieces, like say you're looking through a Western campsite, that Western campsite's gonna have pots, pans, horses, fire. Why do you actually have a tail line? A tail line actually is to keep animals away at night. We have those projects that they can actually design. There's a lot that goes with it, as well as with co-spaces and a couple others. Oh, that's what your students have done. That's insane. That's awesome. You're crushing it. So yeah, so if you don't mind, Helen, if you aren't Helen and Denise, if you guys aren't part of the Facebook group, I would definitely sign up and share some of those experiences, because there are teachers all over the world that are always looking for new things, and if you guys are doing that, you're way ahead of the curve, and we would love to hear some of your feedback and your notions. So yeah. Any other questions?
So from the Georgia stance, Romaine and I are happy to help you guys increase the discussion within your classroom, with your administration, whatever you guys might have on a district scale implementation, anything that you guys kind of envision. We're here to help, and don't forget, if you are just looking for it for your class, there are those great grants that are available. I don't like grant writing, but in the end, it's worth it. It's like you really win a great prize for your hard work, and we'll be happy to help you with that as well. I'm going to go ahead and leave Romaine and I's information, and you guys feel free to email us and let us help you in any way that you're looking to help. Thanks so much, Nick, for jumping on. He's from the state of Texas right now.
Yeah.
And Brian, thank you for inviting us and spending this time with the frontline teachers that make the difference in students' lives every day.
Yep. No, honestly,
Well,
thank you
for coming.
Yep. And the other thing too is, if you've signed up through the link that Brian sent out, again, if you guys need a little bit more time, please feel free to reach out to Jennifer and Romaine. Let them know. I will happily link those things out. And if you need more merge cubes, print them out, take them, show them off, give them as gifts, whatever you can. If you haven't tried it yet, please don't wait. All right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. You guys gave us a lot to think about and a lot to play around with. Like I said, I've been enjoying mine this far. I've checked out quite a few different of the apps. Some of them are compatible with my old iPad, but it's okay.
Brian, you have been an early adopter for quite some time. So you've been working with Merge for a couple of years, right?
A couple years, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So,
Yeah, but it was after I left the classroom, so I've been playing with them for a while. I'd love to be able to put them in front of some young people and see what they feel about them.
awesome. Awesome. Well, if there aren't any more questions, again, Jennifer, thank you so much for your help today. Brian, thank you as well, and Romaine. I think that's it, right? Everything we need. And again, that website is trymerge.com/NN. The reason for the NN is because you guys will be looped together as this event, so you'll be covered. Cool.
Appreciate it. I wish I could, give a nice round of applause.
No, thank you. This is all the hard work that teachers. I know the struggles. So thank you guys for taking care of our future.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I guess I'm out for now, and thank you again, guys. Bye.
All right. Peace, Nick. All right, everybody. We're going to do another break. Our next set of sessions start at about 2:45. There is a set of panels that time. You get to choose between culturally responsive, relevant pedagogy and instruction in the CS classroom, or why should artificial intelligence be part of Georgia's CS courses? Both of those sound pretty engaging to me. So 2:45, meet us back and we'll split up and do that thing. Thanks a lot, everybody. Heading out.